Welcome back to the second episode of The Last Safe Space. We are a straight-talking, no-nonsense, data-driven podcast from Music Venue Trust. I am your co-host, Toni Co, and this is my other co-host, Mark Davyd, who is the CEO of Music Venue Trust. How are you doing today?
Tired, but happy, you know.
Okay. Why are you tired?
I just need to get more sleep.
Just perpetually tired.
Perpetually tired, and also perpetually slaving away at the coalface of this stuff.
Of course you are. It's a really positive way to start our episode. Welcome. So it is the end of the week again, and we're going to break it down for you. And this week, the Prime Minister backs the £1 grassroots ticket levy. The levy adoption numbers are climbing, and that's the work that we do. And another packed week for our crisis service, as always, and a look at community power is saving venues. So let's get started with the big one, which is Starmer. So, I mean, he's not going to be for everyone. We're not here to talk about politics. You know, we have one government to work with. We've got one Prime Minister to work with. But, you know, the Prime Minister was in Milton Keynes this week announcing a major expansion to youth service funding. And when the enemy asked him if music was still a viable career path for young people, Keir Starmer didn't just say yes, he went all in, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he went full frontal support.
Okay.
I mean, look, he's I'm not going to pretend that at the moment in politics he's a bit Marmite, you know. Probably
I wasn't even really going to go there, to be honest
but
with you.
I don't think there's any point in pretending. Look, we put the post out, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, you can't do this," and blah, 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 blah. No, you've missed the point. It doesn't matter who the Prime Minister is for the point that we're making about this. This is the first time a sitting Prime Minister has openly used the phrase grassroots music venues, and not just used it, but also said all the things that you need a Prime Minister to say about it. And that doesn't matter whether you support him or not on whatever policy it is. It is an important moment because it means the lexicography around this campaign issue is changing, and it's changing for the better, and that opens up opportunities and possibilities. So I think we can talk a little bit about politics and say, look, I totally understand. I have lots of friends who don't like the Prime Minister, whatever. I understand. Forget that. Just think about the fact that within the space of 10 years of us coining that phrase, we've got the Prime Minister to say it. I kind of wrote, we touched on this in a previous podcast, you know, this thing of deciding what we would talk about, what the phrase is, seems incredibly small, but actually it's not. It's incredibly important. And if you have the Prime Minister saying it, then you can expect that the Culture Minister is going to campaign behind it. Chris Bryant, which he is, Secretary of State for Culture, Lisa Nandy, feels that it's important to the Prime Minister, so therefore that's going to, I mean, it's already important to them. But I think it'll echo across other departments.
Well, it's finally trickling up, isn't it? You know, This is the first time I think a Prime Minister has ever really engaged with our work in a way like this, anyway.
I mean, you know, look, to appear politically neutral, another incredibly popular political figure, Boris Johnson, when he was the Mayor of London, he commissioned the first ever report into venues in London. And that report was one of the things that cemented the expression grassroots music venues. We're a charity. And
we can't be political, can we?
Well, not just that, but also you have to work with what there is at the moment. There's no point in, if we waited for there to be the right government that absolutely supported all these things, probably they'd be absolutely dreadful at something else. I don't know. But if you've got the government's on your side on saying the right things, what was the expression? Survive and thrive, I think he said.
Yeah, well, he said music is a joy and economic powerhouse, and something in the UK is, you know, and something the UK is really good at, and then directly backed the £1 ticket levy.
Yeah, which is, you know, that's huge.
Sorry, he did say venues need not just to survive, but to thrive.
But to thrive, yeah. Well,
it's a really clear statement.
It's very clear, and I hope some of our colleagues in the music industry that still think, oh, do they really matter or not? Well, the Prime Minister's just told you they do. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a great moment.
I mean, he even said he'd like to see it expanded.
What, the circuit or the support?
The support.
The support. I'd like to see the circuit expanded. So maybe I should talk to him about that. I have a personal hotline night.
I was going to say.
Yeah, you know.
Sit down with your pal Starmer.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're not popping the champagne yet. We're going to have to see, you know, what happens. And, but this is a strong signal to the industry that the levy is no longer just like a fringe idea.
Yeah, absolutely central. Central enough that the Prime Minister has said the words grassroots music venues. Honestly, it's the sort of thing that if you're a campaigner, lots of people who campaign on things that might watch this would be like, wow, I wish we could get him to say words about our campaigns. So, fantastic.
And, talking about the levy numbers, speaking of delivery, here's what the levy adoption is looking at right now. So in 2025 so far, 23.8 million tickets have been sold for arena and stadium shows. And of those, just over 1.9 million had the grassroots levy. So that's like, what, 8?
Just over 8%.
Yeah, just over 8%. How's that feeling for you?
Well, I mean, look, timing is important here. I'm not here to criticise the numbers this year particularly. The reality is that actually the CMS Select Committee wanted to see progress on the voluntary levy by September last year, but in fact the government didn't come out and back it fully until October, and then really, actually it was in December last year where the music industry was round a table and the government, Chris Bryant from DCMS, Culture Minister, said very clearly, I want the voluntary levy. That's what we want you to deliver. And if you can't deliver it, we'll look at the statutory levy. So by that time in December last year, if you think about the number of tickets were already on sale, it was around about 15, 16 million were already on sale. So the numbers, of course, are going to be lower for 2025. Do you want to do 2026?
Well, yeah, they get a bit higher, don't they, for 2026?
Well, they do, but are they
11.4%. So last month quarter, 3 announcements have 24.4% levy coverage.
That's the bit. So data is your friend. Maths is always your friend. Like at the moment, it's only 11.4% of tickets for 2026. But there's not that many tickets on sale. I think it's around about 2 million, something like that. So we've got another probably 20 million tickets to be announced, and the industry is starting to understand. I said a long time ago, about a year ago, I did an interview which a lot of people phoned me about afterwards and shouted at me about, and I said there are 2 possibilities.
That happens a lot to you, doesn't it?
Well, it does, because I'm stupid and I won't shut up. I don't know how to keep them from stop phoning me, and I don't mean to do it, but sometimes you just say, look, this is it.
This is the data, yeah.
This is the data. Look, the fact is the government wants a voluntary levy, and if there's not going to be a voluntary levy, there'll be a statutory levy. Now, I said that a year ago. Before we even had the meeting with the minister, I sat in a room with him and I said, I don't think you understand. The conversation of whether there should be a levy on a reinstatement, that's finished. Mm-hmm. That's over. We're into the question of how will it be done. And there are only 2 possibilities. One, we do it ourselves. There's a lot of control. We can control where the money goes. We all get behind the Live Trust, which is really coming together now, and there's lots of progress on that. Or there will be a statutory levy. And I think even recently I heard somebody on another podcast, which we shan't name because you all have to listen to ours. but somebody said, I don't think there's much will at government to do the statutory levy. Listen to what they're saying. They are literally telling you they will do a statutory levy if you can't make the voluntary levy work. I think the big companies are starting to understand that. I know there was a meeting between the Minister and Live Nation, who, they have reasons why they might not have done it speedily as they should have done, in our opinion. I understand all that. But what you just mentioned there is the last bit of data, Q3. So since the beginning of July, the number of tickets that have got it on has gone up to, I think, 24%. 24.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
24.4.
That's much different to Q2 and to Q1. So if we can get it to 24% by the end of September, maybe, let's try and aim for maybe 30% by the end of September, because Chris Bryant has been very clear. He's replied a couple of times in the House of Commons, and he's said, MPs have asked him questions because there's a lot of attention on this. And the question was, what do you think it should be by the 31st of December? And Chris Bryant has said 50%. Yeah. So I think if it needs to stay at least 25% in this quarter, and that'll give them quite a lot of work to do in Q4 to get it near that 50%. I think it's hard. I'm not pretending it's not, because you've got a lot of moving parts. You've got the promoter, the ticketing agent, the agent, the manager, the artist. There's a lot of people involved in the show. There are some weird shows going on sale
that should have the levy on.
That really, like, you look at them and you think, why isn't the levy on that one? There are artists I know absolutely, and so do you. We in our office, we talk about a lot. I'm not calling anybody out because I don't actually think the artist should be making that decision.
I'm not even sure the artists always know.
I don't think they know, but I know that there are artists where the show has gone on sale and it's not on the ticket, and you look at it and you think, that is really weird. I know that artist is absolutely aligned with this idea. So who in their team didn't understand that it was their job to say, can we put the levy on? I think I'd like to see some. I don't. It's nothing to do with the artist. It's to do with the teams.
Yeah.
You know, anybody in the team could ask this question. If it isn't on there, who didn't ask the question or who didn't put forward the idea? But then there are some other ones. Let's celebrate. My Chemical Romance, Wembley Stadium, 2 nights. It's on both shows.
I mean, that's awesome.
Brilliant.
Yeah. That's
fantastic.
Really cool.
It's going to raise somewhere between 160 and 180,000 pounds in just one announcement. And you know from our work, £160,000 in our sector, that's a lot of money.
It's also really awesome when we're not the people that have orchestrated it.
Yeah.
And an artist just comes, they just announce it, you know. And
the relief I feel when something comes out and it's actually got it on it and we didn't do anything is brilliant, because that just means the idea is finally broken through and everybody should be going to do it, you know. Well, so if My Chemical Romance at Wembley Stadium can do it, but some of the artists we know, that have UK artists that have come through the Grassroots and talk about the Grassroots a lot, and it's not on their shows, not the artist. I'm not pointing the artist. I'm pointing at the management. I'm pointing at the promoter, the ticketing company, the venue.
Yeah,
everybody involved in it. What went wrong that didn't happen? Because that shouldn't be happening.
Well, look, there's some really positive conversations happening with national and international companies, but the next few months are going to be really crucial for turning goodwill, you know, into action. So yeah, watch this space. So to move into our sort of a crisis part of the podcast, the crisis service has been really busy again. We've got 2 venues in Sheffield who are facing huge rent hikes from the same landlord. And in Falmouth, a venue's coming to us for employment law guidance. We've got venues in Somerset and Newcastle trapped in really bad energy contracts, something that we're seeing quite a lot of post-pandemic. And a London venue is navigating licensing issues. So these aren't just headline stories, but they are sort of make or break moments that they often are, to be honest with you. These people running these spaces are having a really hard time a lot of the time. And the only reason we can be there is because people are backing us, you know, people are supporting us through, whether it's through partnerships, whether it's through the supporters circle, through the ticket levy. Yeah,
whether it's through partnerships like Most Wanted Wine.
Yeah, or you gave you a name drop. So
a very satisfying hiss, didn't it? I think that was picked up. And look, just some of those, like rent hikes. I think people don't understand. Like rent since COVID has gone up a bonkers amount of money. Mm-hmm. I think one venue it's gone up by 184%.
And energy as well.
Energy's, I mean, astonishing. Like what was it? The highest one we found in the end was 440% increase in energy costs.
Yeah, I think that was one on the southeast coast, and it was astronomical.
Just astronomical. And you like, how are you going to raise that on the tickets? You know, I mean, the average price of the ticket to get in was £11.48 in our 2024 report. Well, to pay for energy, how much? 440% increase in energy. Bearing in mind how the ticket is split and everything, what are you going to put it up to? £30? £40?
I don't know, but some of these contracts are really questionable.
Just absurd, yeah. And people also don't realise when we do our venue support team, the work that Sophie and Jay and Lloyd and Stina and Alid do to help venues in these crises. That work, we do it incredibly financially viably because we've got a team and we can support the venue. Yeah. If the venue didn't have that support, something like a licensing complaint or a noise complaint, that can cost the venue £10,000 or £20,000 in legal advice.
I mean, I've literally experienced that, having worked, you know, for a venue. I've experienced the cost, not only to how much it costs to go through a licensing review, but the loss of programming as well. That when you're putting all of your efforts into fighting it,
you lose focus. So actually having that outside venue support team, that people who support us enable us to give the venue that support pretty much for free, right up until the point where a solicitor or lawyer, whatever, has to sign a professional opinion, where there is some cost to that. But before that, everything pretty much is free. wow, that's such a massive support to the venue. And also, as you said, somebody outside looking at your planning objection, looking at your noise complaint for you, so that you can remain focused on getting the band on, booking the bands ahead. It's the most important thing we do, really.
It really is, yeah. And I think it's something that, because I sort of lead on the campaign and communications, I sometimes forget to communicate how important the VST, the venue support team is. Is central to all of the work that we do. And, I think you've just highlighted a really important point about being part of the membership as well. Because, a lot of these venues, they're on their own, until they join the membership and they become part of the Music Venues Alliance, and they suddenly have a whole community of other venue operators and owners that they can speak to and they can share advice with, like peer-to-peer support.
I mean, there's just over 800 members now, and the peer-to-peer stuff is absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite interesting sort of sitting and talking about this stuff at slightly more length than we do with a Facebook post, because of course at that point you can actually tell people, oh, this is what we actually do. You see I pop on television sometimes and I'm just moaning about something. But behind all that moaning, there's actually a practical course of action to do stuff. And it comes out of these case studies. We don't ask for changes to the Planning Act because we just feel like that. We do that because we've got all these case studies, all these things that happened. Last year there were over 200 venue support cases. That's 1 in 4 venues had to come into this service for something that otherwise could have closed them down. And that's what we really do. That's why the rate of closure of venues has slowed so rapidly, is because the team's absolutely brilliant at this work. And the more of it we do, the more we know.
Yeah, we're a very action-based charity, and I think sometimes it can look online, when we're doing interviews, that we're kind of complaining about stuff or whatever. But, there are some incredible wins going on in the background as well. Talking about wins and campaigns, the Railway Inn in Winchester just hit their fundraising target in a few days. Yeah. over 1,100 people chipping in to save their local venue. That is a beautiful story.
I think it was 5 days, wasn't it?
Yeah, crazy.
£35,000 raised in 5 days.
I mean, I can imagine what it must have felt like for that venue to, have hit that target. I mean, that's what community looks like, right?
I could talk about that particular bit for more than this podcast is supposed to last for. I think when you're running one of these venues, and I've told the team at the Railway Inn this personally, I think when you're running one of these venues, it's a real day-to-day grind. It's a lot of work. Don't ever underestimate that. But you know that it's loved. And you know that it's really important to people.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily feel that in the direct way that you will with a crowdfunder that raises £35,000 in 5 days. And in the way, anybody who wants to know how important this is to people, look that crowdfunder up, because it's still running. I think they're trying to raise some money now.
They're doing a stretch target, I think, to 50.
Yeah, to try and do even more for their local community, which again is great. Read the comments. Anybody who thinks this isn't about keeping venues open, just go and read the comments.
That's what we do to make ourselves feel better as well. We go and read the comments.
Go and read the comments. If I'm feeling a bit low about it, there's 2 things I like to do. Number one, I like to go and be in one and crowd surf a bit, because it reminds me that that's what it's all about. And the other one is just read those comments and you'll realise that this really matters to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's incredible. And we're so pleased that venue is going to be secure now. We've also been sharing the Ground Up, a new Substack telling in-depth stories from venues across the UK. The first piece is the Jago in Dalston, which we highly recommend you go and check out. And just a reminder that investing in Grassroots isn't about bailing out struggling venues. It's about giving them the tools to grow stronger and to be future-proof. And on that note, I just want to shout out to our supporter circle again, which you've got your AIA t-shirt on for. This is a t-shirt
if you join our supporter circle, yes, you get one of these exclusive t-shirts. We don't send you one every month, obviously. We send you one to indicate you join the circle. I met one of these in the wild the other day.
Did you?
Yeah, and it was a sort of mutual loving. It was quite funny because I was so pleased to see one. Do you know?
Oh, did they know who you were?
But the person who was wearing it was like, and came over and they were like, oh, this has made my day. And I said, no, other way around. You've made my day because you practically support this invisible work that goes on. There's a couple of hundred of them. There's more than
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, we're well over 200 now, which is amazing. The people that really invested in the work that we do and they want to support in in a month to month. You know?
Well, I think it's like £5 or £10 a month.
I think £5 gets you the T-shirt, and then we've got a really special members badge for those who do £10 a month. And what's that? A couple of beers, you know. It's to be honest with you, £5 is like a coffee in East London now. Absolutely crazy. I don't live in London, and I'm shocked at how expensive things are.
Well, living in London these days, I said to somebody the other day, literally, you go to your bank account at the end of the week and there's about 200 quid missing, and you think, what's that? What was that?
What was that? Yeah.
What was that? So, if I was... But listen, we sound like we're big salespeople. We're not very good at doing sales.
No.
You're probably better than me. But look, it's a £5, and practically that means your money will directly support a venue that's got a licence complaint, a noise complaint, financial troubles, under debt relief. It'll actually tackle it. It enables us to support the Railway In crowdfunder campaign.
Yeah,
you know, enabled us to say, okay, this is how you could do things. And honestly, everything we do, we need people to support us to do it. So if you really care about this, and if you can afford a £5 a month, sling it in, because it just really helps.
We also have loads of
T-shirt.
We also have loads of specialists, don't we? Loads of gurus who help us with like planning, you know, issues and
without it's a big community effort. You know, it's the thing I'm proudest of. We're a team. We're a great team. Everybody here does a really great job, but they've got the support of actually thousands of people behind them. People put money into that Railway In crowdfunder.
It's amazing. And just to remind you of all the ways that you can support us, you know, you can support us with the supporter circle. You can help by sharing and liking our posts, you know, sending it to people that you think might be interested. You could share this podcast if you've enjoyed it. The more people who know what's happening, the more power we've got to change things. And so just thank you so much for listening. If you've liked this podcast episode, you can like and subscribe.
You meant to say that, aren't you, at the top? I was reading my instructions about podcasts the other day. Like and subscribe. Yeah.
I know it feels like a weird tagline. I'm sorry, but we do actually need you to like and subscribe. It's really important. But sharing our messaging online, you know, we work really, really hard to keep people informed about what's going on in the grassroots ecosystem with a focus on grassroots music venues. But we do genuinely care about the sustainability of the whole ecosystem, and sharing our messages online really helps us get information out there to everyone. It all makes a massive difference. So please keep supporting your local music scene, and let's keep the lights on.